Hello, Oboots from around the world. My name is Kais, and I'm 11 years old, and I live in Montreal, Canada. Welcome to our Oboot Zoom session, where me and my co-host Nora, who is 13 years old and currently lives in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia, will be interviewing our guest changemaker, Sofana Dahlan, who is also based in Jeddah. Sofana is one of the first female lawyers in Saudi Arabia and the founder of Tashkil, a social enterprise that supports creatives in the Middle East region. And she is also the founder of Kayan Space, a co-working space for freelancers, entrepreneurs, and startups. As a social entrepreneur and a lawyer, she empowers the next generation of creatives and helps them protect their intellectual property. Sofano's work contributes to several sustainable development goals, particularly to SDG number 5, gender equality, SDG number 8, decent work and economic growth, SDG number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and last, SDG number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Nora and I will be asking to Sofana about her questions, or about her background, her journey, her work, her skills, and her impact. We hope that you will enjoy the session, and I'll now be handing you guys over to Nora to ask the first question.
Hello, Sofana. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Okay, I'm glad. I'll start with the questions now. So what do you do for work exactly?
Well, I do a lot of things. I am a professional lawyer, so I have my legal firm. We're specialized in intellectual properties, trademarks, and copyrights. And therefore, we work with many creatives in protecting their intellectual properties and, trying to help them get the rights back if it was infringed. So that's one side of what I do. This takes almost 60% of my time. The other 40% is basically I have the great passion for creative industry, and creative industry is, every expression, every product of intellectual expressions, music, art, design, and because my passion there, and because my legal work actually contributes to this industry, I opened two enterprises, Tashkil, which is basically a consultancy that helps develop creatives. So we help them in three ways. The first way is building their capacity. So everything from training, workshops, in order to advance their skills and their talent in that field, and make it more more profitable. So it's not just a talent that they enjoy, but it's actually a source of income in the future. The second part of Tashkil, we work with community building. As you know, in the Middle East, creativity has not been perceived as a career in the past decade because of a lot of cultural and religious interpretations. I won't say it's right or wrong, but that's how it was perceived. A lot of parents in the old age, they used to think that people who are creatives are more, this is a hobby and not a career. And therefore, they did not help their children to actually advance their talents and skills. So what we decided to do in Tashkil is to help educate parents and raise their awareness about the importance of creative industries and how these creative talents can be profitable income sources. So we do a lot of community engagement and a lot of pop-up shops, a lot of exhibitions, a lot of talks, a lot of roundtable discussions, to just make people feel the importance of creative minds, how much they're interesting and talented, and how can they contribute or collaborate. The last but not least is when my organization evolved, we've developed another department, which is industry building. And industry building, what we do is we support private sector and public sector to put strategies, plans, projects, campaign in order to help the creative industry, to help build the ecosystem of creative industries. And so we worked with many government organizations in different projects. We also established our own projects that we believe that will build the industry, such as Kayan Space, which is the first co-working space in Jeddah. We opened in 2011. Back then, we had many challenges. And Kayan Space is a lovely, nice space where a lot of creatives rent private offices, studios mainly, or share co-working areas and event halls to, carry out their activities.
When you were talking about creative industries, what exactly do you mean when it comes to creative industries?
Okay, so people, people come with ideas, and once these ideas come into shape, whether they are poetry or certain writings like a book or certain painting, any kind of expression. So the product of your intellectuality becomes a tangible asset. And this tangible asset has a value. So this value, whether it's a product that you have, let's say you're a fashion designer, you created a dress. So this dress has a value in the market. So the minute you establish that, you have an industry where you can offer the products or your intellectual property to people, and people can purchase it, or they can acquire your service, such as you're a photography and I need a photographer. Creative industry is 12 different sectors. So some of these sectors are: one, the music industry, the entertainment industry, the tourism industry, the visual arts industry, the literature industry. So it's any kind of expression, human expression, that comes into the form of a tangible asset is considered part of the creative industry. Now, the industry consists of an ecosystem. This ecosystem has to have many different stakeholders, different people that functions within this industry. So in the creative industry, we have one, the education part, which is training centers, colleges for arts and music and so on. Two, you have the governance, which is government issuing laws to govern the relationship of people within that sector. Three, you have the economic part or the financial part. So there is a market over there that needs to function, demand and ardu talab. I'm sure you guys can translate what I'm going to say in Arabic, but it's a market, so it needs to function like a market. And in this market, you will have certain platforms such as concept stores that sell these things, such as the social media and internet to offer your products and services, so different platforms. Then you have the financial, which is the investors, people who are willing to invest in a talent, such as producers, angel investors, venture capitalists. So these people are part of this industry as well. And then lastly, you have the talents themselves, the people that provide the products and services that is considered creative. So this whole ecosystem is called industry. In this industry, it has to be all equally be built so that people can flourish and have a better relationship between each other and provide an economic value. The economics the income that comes from this industry is called the creative economy. And the creative economy is a knowledge-based economy. So it's based on the knowledge, the outcome of the knowledge of the people once it takes a form of a asset or a creative product or service.
So you were saying that when you were younger, you had a more like one-sided manner when it came to like creative industries and all these things. What got you into what you're doing today? Like, how did you get the idea of it?
Okay, so I'll tell you the story of how I got there. I've always liked the creative industry, and I've always liked to use my hands, and I am an extrovert, so I like to express myself. But I was born in a country where it's unlike many countries. It's special circumstances where, as a girl, I didn't have the freedom to express myself verbally the way I wanted to. So I've always used mediums such as writing letters or drawing paintings or saying storytelling to get my point through without really clashing with the system or with the culture. And as I was growing up, I wanted to study law because I was very convinced that in order for me as a Saudi woman born and raised in the 80s and 90s, in order to get my rights, and I need to know them. And for me to know them, I felt like I should study law, and therefore I can actually claim my rights, what's mine. So after I studied law, I was not permitted to practice law because I was not recognized as a lawyer, because my country back then, women were not practicing law or recognized as lawyer. So I worked in a legal firm in a neighboring country. And because I wasn't recognized, my certificate wasn't recognized in my country, they offered me a very, they call it back office work or leg work. So they put me in the back offices, and they're like, they dump any kind of cases they don't like or they're not too profitable. And so a lot of the cases that came my way were cases about intellectual property. And they were cases where one of the parties was a creative, was either a musician or an artist or a designer or a poet, who somebody actually took their rights or deprived them from their own rights, and they were not fair, and there was no justice in it. And after a while, I started documenting every single case, and I noticed a pattern that I noticed patterns in the type of cases that I was handling. One party was creative. Second, every time this person who's considered a creative, who owns the intellectuality of the product, is being treated unfairly. Three is that going to courts with these type of cases is a loss for everybody. And four is that these people, often after they go through the trauma of going to courts and problems and paying so much money to the lawyers, they tend to give up on their dreams and give up on their creativity. And I found that very sad, because these people, everything we eat, we drink, we sit, in our houses, these are a result of creative minds. And if we do not support them, we'll end up not having anything in our homes, anything new, anything creative, anything beautiful. So I decided, I said, you know what? I reframed how I think or how I handle a problem. I said, handling a problem after it happens is not always helpful, but handling a problem before it's happened is much better. And so as a lawyer, I don't need to wait for a problem to happen so I can solve it or prevent it, but I need to take a more progressive role by actually going and trying to see what is the source of this problem and how can I fix it. And I found out that one of the major issues we face is that these creatives have lack of understanding and in contracts. So they read the contracts, they don't understand, because often contracts are considered boring and complicated for people who are, fun and nice and so on. So I said, maybe if I can teach them how to understand these contracts in a very fun way, I will be able to solve the problem before it reaches to a problem. So I started in 2008 my first workshop, which is teaching a group of designers about one sort of contract, which is a consignment contract. And I have to say that my first workshop was a disaster, because after 5 minutes of me speaking, everybody were holding their phones. And so I said, there is something that I'm doing wrong right here. So I started doing my observation, and I found out that the way I was presenting a very valuable content to them was boring, and that I needed to understand my clients and the people who are asking for my workshops and present to them the information in a way they would be interested in. So I made it colorful, I made it as a storytelling. We gamified the contracts, so they get points if they were able to assess whether or not this clause is fair to them. And these workshops started becoming, I used to do it in the summer, they became a success. One after the other, people started applying, it started generating income for me, more than I expected. And so I said, you know what, maybe this is meant to happen. Maybe, yes, I wanted to be a lawyer to actually help people, but help can take different forms and shapes and can be interpreted differently in every part of your life. As long as I had the will to help people, it doesn't matter. I quit my job and decided to work with these amazing people. And I established Tashkil. It was a very bumpy ride because a lot of people around me did not believe in the concept in the beginning, because it was really the concept wasn't fully developed, but the intention and will was there. So we started from one workshop about only legal. Then we did the second workshop, which is bookkeeping, how to keep your accounting in place. Then how to use marketing and social media to promote your product. Tashkil started flourishing. We started then, after people started developing their products, we started creating these pop-ups, creating the market for them. And it kept rolling. One thing led to another. It grew organically. A lot of people members of the community, we became as a family, we became a community. People volunteered, people we helped came back and helped us help other people. And a lot of people started believing in the creative industry, So I hope I answered your question. It's a long answer, but I hope I answered.
You did. So enough about your work life. What do you like doing outside of work? Like when you're on holidays, where do you like to travel? Activities you like to do?
Well, outside my work life, I love spending time with my daughters as much as I can. And I love reading audiobooks. I enjoy them very much. I love reading religious book, a different religious book, but I love reading books. I love exploring the Quran in different way, which is our religious book. So I like reading it with different tones, which we call maqamat, and just explore it and in different ways, in different tones, reading different interpretation, thinking about different concepts. I like to cook, but not very often, but sometimes I do get that. Traveling is definitely something I love doing and I'm deprived of. And when I travel, I love going to the museums. I love going to, concept stores, exploring regional designers. I love the sea. I love the salty water and just the beach in general. And I like markets and bazaars.
Anyways, I'm done the questions for now. I'll hand it over to Qais now.
All right. Why did you how did you become one of the first female lawyers?
Okay. So back in the days, Saudi Arabia did not really believe that women can actually partake in the legal industry. And for different cultural and traditional tribal reasons. But as we moved forward, so I have a brother who was younger than me. And when we were 15, I was 15 and he was 14 or 13 and a half, I started noticing that his curfew is longer than mine. And it didn't make sense. Why does he have more rights than I do? And then I started noticing that a lot of girls or a lot of women who were married were subject to a lot of injustice, and that courts were not supportive of them. And because of gender separation, women were not able to express themselves and provide their point of view in a very open manner. So they were subject to injustice. So as I was, in my final year, I started thinking, I was, alhamdulillah, born in a good status and where things were provided to me without me asking. So I should not take care of myself, and I should start thinking about how can I take care of others, and how can I try to make a difference in my community. And I also started thinking, there is a very big reason why I am a woman born in this era, and why am I Saudi? God could have created me anything else. So I just felt that going through the experience of being a girl in Saudi Arabia, being deprived of a lot of things, should actually change. And the first thing that should happen is me changing it for myself. And for me to change it for myself, I need to understand who gives the right. Is it God? Is it the government? Is it the United Nations? Who gives the right? And the first way to solve a problem is to try to understand it fully. And law school helped me understand the concept of governance in a broad context. But then my master's in Islamic studies helped me understand it from a more social aspect. And then I started making my own way through it, because I understand it's not black or white. It is something that you need to pave your way. Every country will go through its own cycle of development and gender equality, but there should be people that push for that. And if you want to push, you need to start by yourself. You cannot go and claim and do all these campaigns only. You need to start that change from yourself. So I studied law, graduated. I didn't get my certificate accredited. I had to go back and study Islamic Sharia so that they accredited. Then they were not recognized because I didn't have a male guardianship. And then after that, I just started thinking, you know, in order for you to achieve a dream, you can set a goal, a long-term goal, but you cannot keep looking at it. You need to deal day by day on the little things, solve one thing at a time. In no time, you will find yourself reaching the dream. Imagine, I studied when they didn't allow women to practice, right? And there was no way I could imagine then that they will allow us. 13 years after, I became one of the certified lawyers in Saudi Arabia. I have the first legal female office opened. I was born and raised when the country didn't have women driving. And yes, at the age of 40, I got my Saudi, I have 5 driver license, but my Saudi driver license, I got it at the age of 40. And I'm very privileged to have lived 2 eras in the development of my country, and to have the happiness of being finally reaching something that you didn't have. That's a beautiful feeling.
Okay. So I don't have any more questions because Nora answered basically all of them. But I mean, one more question. Do you have any advice for somebody else who wants to become a change maker or a lawyer like you?
Well, I think the most important thing that you should know that God has not created anybody for no reason. So everybody is special in their own way, and everybody has a certain talent that they need to discover in themselves. So start by believing that. The second point, if you believe that you are here for a purpose, then you need to find your purpose. And your purpose is usually things you experience and things you are passionate about. And so the trick is how can you combine what you're passionate about with a purpose, a noble purpose that will contribute to other people. Lastly, you can study whatever you want. You know, I studied law and people thought, you know, how can a lawyer be in the creative industry? Really, if you want to help people, it doesn't matter what you study. It's really the will and passion that you have of, in my case, solving problems and helping people. So whatever you guys feel or like, just try to make the best out of it and helping others. Even if you're playing, you know, play a game that will help other people or teach other people to play the game. So that's my advice.
Okay. Thank you, Sofana and Nora, for the great discussion and for everything that we learned today. Thank you, Abooties, for listening to this interview. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter and to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can hear about upcoming sessions with other change makers. Please also tell your friends about Oboot and share our social media links with them. And last but not least, go to www.oboot.co to learn about opportunities to collect digital badges and help us draw down carbon.